What is up, YouTube? Good morning, Carly. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Dan. What's up, everybody? Oh, man. What a morning. I don't know if y'all are ready for this. It's about to get warm in here. Ryan, what's up, my friend? Perfect temperature to drink. Not too hot. Hasn't lost heat. Shut your mouth, Ryan. Shut it real good. Glue it shut. And then take that topic, erase it from your mind. Take that 5-letter word that you just said that started with an H, erase it from your vocabulary. You'll appreciate it. Thank me later. Chris, I did nothing, but I'm going to do something right here. I tend to, lately, keep my nose clean, stay out of drama, certainly not start it, certainly not join in. But that's the funny thing about drama. You're in it whether you want to be or not, whether you like it or not. It's just whether or not you participate in it. And then there's good participation, and then there's bad, or healthy and unhealthy, we'll say. Funny guy, Dan. Been up for a little bit. I started some conversations over the week, doing some lineage hunting and digging up of information. Some of what I've been getting back and a few other things has got me excited, inspired. I'm letting it all go here digitally today so I don't carry it with me, at least the less than pleasant side of it all. I'm going to shake it all out and get it out of here. Ryan, nobody said anything. Correctly, anyway. Yeah, everything's great. Good morning, Terry. Everything's good. Life is glorious, wonderful, and it gets better. So, but if you all read the little description for what today's episode is going to be about, you might be able to figure it out. Justin, what's up, dude? You might like this one, Justin. Specifically because you're not involved in these projects, but it's a topic we all, probably have some stake in. Who the hell is Harvey? What's up? Good morning. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. Looking like this month I'm back to my normal Friday, Saturday weekend, so I don't foresee any wacky stream schedules. But you never know. Zoo life is crazy. So, as you all know, I've been producing some jungle carpets this year. If you are in the Morelia world, you know that in certain projects, lineage is important, at least to know and be able to track phenotypes from certain animals and be able to see sort of where your animals come from. One of the things with carpet pythons is it's hard to tell exactly how they're going to look when they're babies, looking into what they're going to be as adults. But usually you can get some good insight by looking at the parents, grandparents, so on and so forth. Now, there are certain circles where lineage is more important than others because it can directly influence the price point for your animals. It will convey certain animals in their lineage that might be highly sought after if they don't exist anymore, things like that. So, jungle carpets the lineage is very important to most people. Lineage sort of loses its importance when you're doing, species or subspecies crosses, things like that. Hey, you're welcome. Welcome. Yeah, anytime. I love talking carpets. But so lineage is important if you're one of those people. If you're in the purist camp, lineage is essential. If you are not a purist but you have projects that you like to keep pure, it might still be important. So for me, I do a lot of pure or uncrossed stuff, but then I also have some more projects that are crossed, and lineage isn't really essential there because you're not trying to show that these animals are all exactly one type down the line over the decades. That's where jungles come in. And with Australian stuff in general, because we can't get new blood in, it's closed borders, it becomes important for preserving certain bloodlines, history of certain, well-known animals. For example, Madame Blueberry is a very famous coastal name, MBB, you'll see that. So things like that, it's important in certain projects. And jungles, because they've retained their value so well, people are sticklers for that lineage. There are people that work with strictly jungles and selectively breed, and they want to show where these animals come from, and ultimately it's more from an angle of showing purity, right? For lack of an elaborate way to reconnection successful. OBS Studio. Yeah. Sorry. I think that's on my end. Am I back? Can you guys see me? The OBS Studio had a brain fart there for a second. Dan just mentioned it's crazy. Just picked up a Lazic and VPI line jungle that came out kind of striped. Carly and Chris say we're buffering. Are we back? Okay, we're back. I just got a little notice on my end. It says I have good connection, but lately my internet here has been making me pound my head against the wall. But so there are there's a lot going on in my head right now. I guess I'll just get right into it. There's known pure stuff, there's known undocumented stuff. Some of that undocumented stuff, like highlighter, is very highly sought after because it's so selectively bred, it's gorgeous. And it's one of the few undocumented lineages that still retains a high value and is highly sought after, which is interesting because it's considered on par with some of these truly documented lineages that are also highly sought after, such as VPI, Lazic, Chouette, Larry Black, a lot of these old school lines and names that have documentation running back to basically when it doesn't exist. Good morning, Ed. And so that's important, obviously. So over the years, there's been all sorts of lines that pop up and disappear, and people are looking for them. And as we find out more information, purity can be called into question. So some years ago, I produced some striped jungles, not some years ago, like 3 years ago, that it turns out had a little bit of coastal blood in them. And I've since done away with those animals a long time ago, sold them all off. And Brandon Wheeler of Morelia House did some digging, and he's the one who put in some legwork and put together the lineage of that animal and proved out that there is a little bit of coastal in there. The details aren't important, but after that incident, people started looking at anything that came from that breeder's animals and just blanket statement like, oh, all of it has coastal in it. And not a single one of them did the research, legwork themselves, or even paid attention enough to comprehend that. There are plenty of us who listened to that. Brandon did an excellent job on an episode of NPR, I believe, a year or two back, or some interview talking about it. But anyway, a good friend of mine, somebody who's like really close to me, somebody who I consider a mentor, who is one of the most generous and giving people out there, but is not in like the Facebook world, is my friend Todd Dyer of Psychotic Exotics. Well, Psychotic Exotics some years ago picked up some jungles from a gentleman named Mike Hamilton, and I hope they don't mind me bringing this up. I've been talking to Mike the last couple days. Todd and I have talked about this over the years. I think the dust has settled a little bit, but what I've been doing is trying to put together some of the lineage for my striped jungles this year, and I've got information on the sires, parents, and where they came from, and those are documented. The female behind me, who's produced these animals, comes from a Mike Hamilton jungle paired with a Justin Julander jungle at Psychotics Exotics facility. So Todd and Carrie acquired these animals years and years ago. We're talking decades ago. Carrie bought a lot of these things even before Todd was working with them. So Brandon found out that they, through some digging and talking to the folks, that the striped jungle stuff from Mike Hamilton was crossed with some coastal stuff. So that's been out in the air. That's been, known for the last year or so. And it created some controversy. There were a lot of people, myself included, who had animals from that, was kind of a bummer, but there was no foul play involved. There was nobody hiding information. There was nobody trying to front like these animals were pure when they weren't. None of that. Because Todd is the most honest guy ever. He literally, he didn't know either. It was a shock to him when Brandon found that stuff out. Moving on. That wasn't the only group of jungles they acquired. They also acquired some very banded jungles from a couple groups from Mike as well. And when you have a large collection, you're not going to go naming all these things everywhere. So what Todd was in the habit of doing is naming things ham 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then striped ham, STR ham. So anything that has STR ham comes from that striped cross lineage. But Todd also has some of the best freaking jungles out there. Everybody knows Wow Line. Pretty badass. That's the same as Johnny Blaze, just a different trajectory. It's top quality. When people say Wow Line, people know what that means. And Justin brings up a good point. Stuff gets lost in the mix over the years. Information gets lost. So when I bought these animals, I should have asked for this information at the time of purchase. So my little tidbit about advice is when you're going to buy animals, if you want information about lineage, get it then and there. Don't wait a couple years down the line like I did, and it potentially becomes harder to find or disappears. So back to it. These striped jungle projects were considered to have coastal in them, and after that, from what I've heard from other folks, is that there's been a lot of backdoor smack talking. Everybody sort of running their mouths saying, oh, well, then everything Todd has jungle-wise is coastal blood, and get the heck out of here. That's garbage. We all know that's not true. Todd has some of the best jungles out there, just like a lot of all these other lineages. We all know that. But there's a lot of people who like to run their mouths behind closed doors. So I've been doing the digging to try and just get some answers. I'm selling these babies. I like them. I'm keeping some. And there are some people who are close to me who are sort of the folks looking for top quality animals that regard these as top quality animals. And I wanted to get some of the information that I've been lacking. And I've been talking with Mike. And he's going to see what photos he can get me, and we're going to, narrow this all down, and I'll put together all the charts and stuff and really just have it documented for my own purposes. It's not trying to drive the price up. I'm not trying to, make up a story that doesn't exist. Basically, I just want to know. And so these banded jungles that Carrie purchased years ago that make up the bulk of a lot of Psychotics exotic stocks are old VPI line jungles. That's as pure as it gets. Dave and Tracy Barker had some of the original founding stuff. Casey Lazick had some of the original founding stuff. There's a lot of other folks that did. But basically back then, people weren't crossing things over yet. Morphs hadn't really stepped onto the scene. There was no incentive to really cross over, other than if you just had stuff, people were breeding it like they do now. But there are folks like the Barkers that kept that stuff pure. They had some of the original import stuff. So VPI is one of the widely regarded pure lineages. It's documented. And that's exactly what we're working with here. So This morning, got some more information from Mike, doing some more digging, and I'm really excited because it's looking like I'll be able to confirm that my breeder girl Azteca comes from a VPI lineaged Hamilton banded jungle. So once I can get that information and confirm it, put it all together, put that little thing to rest, and then just got to get the other half from Justin Julander and Benson Morrill if I can dig that information up about some of their jungle stuff. But again, this was decades ago when they got it. This is when what was available was documented, and some of the old import stuff, some of the stuff that's like true blue jungle. It can't be anything else, right? So I got all fired up this morning talking to some people, and good people, of course, and people who share the same sentiments as I, that Todd's like one of the most generous people on the planet. He took me under his wing. He brought me into his facility. He didn't need to do any of that. This was years ago. He coached me. He showed me, what it's like to breed, to do this, to put in the work, to run a collection 1,000 times bigger than this. And anyway, long story short is I'm excited to be able to piece together some of this information that I should have got years ago and put it all together and show that not only does this not come from striped Hamilton stuff, so these stripes come from the sire side, which is Terry Van Deventer and some ivory stuff, which is also very well documented. So I can, rest assured there. But ultimately, my goal is to put it out there that people who I know are talking shit. Sorry for my language. I knew I was going to let one slip here. There are people who are running their mouths and just bad-mouthing people about this because they all of a sudden know better than everyone else, yet not a single one of them has put in the legwork to confirm this. They just took one instance of information and blanket statement, painted it across the board. So they said anything that striped Hamilton is has some coastal in it, which is, what we found out, but they're just saying all of psychotic stuff is like that, which is completely false, absolutely blind, ridiculous statement. Again, those folks weren't the ones doing the legwork, figuring that stuff out. Brandon Wheeler, my hat's off to you for being a relentless lineage hunter and very good at it. I'm not. But lately, it's just something I'm interested in doing. And Todd being close to me and finding out that people run their mouths behind his back, it's horribly disappointing. It's really disrespectful. It makes me pretty upset because Todd and his family have been in this hobby for longer than most of us have been alive, okay? If you don't know Todd, then you don't know how amazing and generous he is. He's like literally the nicest person on the planet. I've always looked up to Todd, and I always will. He's the most honest, straightforward person. And so he's got amazing jungles. Amazing jungles. Why do you think I buy so many snakes from him? Why do you think like a quarter to a third of my collection comes from Todd? It's because he's top shelf and he's a good, respectable person. And when you find people like that in the industry, you want to support them. So my hat's off to Todd. I don't think he'll ever see this. If he does, I hope he doesn't, just get snippets of this out of context, because Todd, I love you. You're my boy. Your animals are top shelf. And it pains me to hear people running their mouths about topics they're not involved in and just making these blind accusations and then trying to devalue and deface his animals. Why? What benefit do you get out of that? That's the thing. I've been studying a lot of communication stuff lately and how to talk to people better and improve what I do to make sure I'm a better communicator and can build these relationships effectively with coworkers, friends, family, whatever. And one of the things that I can't stand is the gossiping when you're just not involved. And this could be said for anything in life. If there's a topic going on and there's controversy, or even if there's not controversy, if there's something going on and it's informative, but you are not involved, stay out of it. Don't add to the rumors. Don't add to the hype. Don't add to the nonsense and the BS that just isn't true. All you're doing is perpetuating rumors, lies, falsehoods, and you're giving people, just nonsense. And there's so many new people coming in here, and that's the first thing they hear about. That's what they're learning, and it's just not true. It's horrible. There are so many good people in this hobby. Why not focus on talking about them and all the good they do? So anyway, off my high horse, I'm going to show you a really cool jungle that, as soon as I can confirm it, has nothing but jungle in it. I'll put together all the background information. I've never had my doubts. Todd, I love your jungles. I can't believe I don't have any WoW stuff, to be honest. I really need to fix that. But I will continue to support Todd, stand behind, him. And it's not like anything new came about. You guys didn't miss anything. Don't worry. This is all in my world. But there's just so much negativity going on, and the internet gives us a platform to do that without having to be face to face with anybody, without having to worry about a backlash and getting like schooled on your lies and nonsense, or whatever it is. So there are a lot of people that need to just kind of sit back and shut up and just learn. We all could learn from sitting back and shutting up and keeping our mouths quiet. You do the best learning with your ears. So here's a really nice partially striped jungle from this year's clutch, and this boy is some ivory, some Vandeventer, and it's looking like some VPI and possible Lazic line as well, once I put together all the vacant information areas. But we're talking about keeping snakes here, people. It's really, like, in the greater scheme of things, it's just keeping snakes. If you want the information, go get it. But if you just want to join a bandwagon and run your mouth and just, get that reptile internet clout and try and fit in a group that you idolize, just do it by being yourself and being a good person. Just don't get off Facebook, for real. It's terrible what it, allows people to do indirectly without ever having to worry about consequences of their actions. If you have a conversation with somebody face to face and you say something incorrect that's negative and disrespectful, you absolutely are going to expect them to say something back to you. You do it online, doesn't matter. You just block them, you turn it off, whatever. So people they feel like there's no consequences to being disrespectful and rude. So I don't know. It's got me all fired up this morning because Todd is a good person, and I'm finding out that people run their mouths and discredit him. And it's unfortunate because jungle people are pretty strict and picky, as they should be. They want the best of the best, and so be it. But like discrediting people and making false claims about information that you can't confirm because you weren't involved in figuring it out, just shut up, for real. So anyway, communication needs to go hand in hand with cooperation with these types of things. Yes, I agree. Who the hell is Harvey? People are not experts. No one's an expert. The other thing is, Todd's been doing this for longer than most of us have even been keeping snakes. Whatever happened to respecting those who came before you and paved the way for us, huh? Whatever happened to, just being polite and learning and, being grateful for the hard work they've done? Gone. It's just gone. Frank Tatis, I thought with Lineage, you're mostly kind of trusting what the breeder said. How do you confirm Lineage? So that's where, looking up the parents, the grandparents, finding out where they came from, who owned them, who produced them, who they breed to, which animals, having photographs, and going back as far as you can. Now, you do have to take them at their word a little bit, because ultimately, they're the ones with the information. So you have to trust that they've been keeping good track of records and things like that. So, take it how you want, but that's where knowing the people and having a face-to-face conversation really helps. Or talking on the phone, not just text messages. Call people. Seriously, call people. Brandon Wheeler calls me every once in a while when he's on the road going home from work, and he's just like, hey man, what's up? How's it going? It's just catching up, and I love it. It's awesome. And it's just rare these days that people do that. And I think we need to get back to that, because we have so much indirect communication without the inflection of what you're saying. No no implication, no tonality, none of that. You don't really get any of that. You don't get the respect because you're not giving the respect. It's just digital. Having a real world conversation, sitting down with somebody and just like being polite and nice and picking their brain and listening is amazing. It's so refreshing. So confirming lineage, you go back as far as you can. You get photos, you find out who they came from. Nick Mutton does an impeccable job of keeping track of all of this stuff, and you can go see his lineage charts on his website, inlandreptile.com, and you can see he's kept track of sire, grandsire, great great grandsire, all the way back as far as it exists, basically. And you keep track of that over generations and generations, and you just make sure you're accurate with your information, and that's where we get the standard of what is considered well documented and pure. At a certain point back in the day, things were not being crossed. Things were coming in exactly as we saw them, and some of that original lineage is considered pure because nobody was breeding, crossing, or anything yet. When the industry of Morelia over here was in its infancy, it's considered that those first founding animals, that's all pure stock. So it's a hypothetical, but I want to ask. I want to preserve locales. I goofed and bought a Sulawesi retic. That island has 2 subspecies, and I can confirm mine is a cross. Is it proper for me to refer that animal as a Sulawesi hybrid? If I'm not mistaken, locale crossing isn't hybridization, but species crossing is hybridization. Subspecies crossing is still within the overall species, so I wouldn't consider that a true hybrid. I would just consider it a subspecies cross. There's a lot of scientific communities that don't even recognize subspecies. They only recognize animals down to the species level. So if you're crossing locales or subspecies, I wouldn't consider it a hybrid. But if you're crossing full species, that I would consider a hybrid. Yeah, Frank, you bring up a good point. You'll never truly know. You really won't. I mean, unless you're the one that went out, bagged, tagged, got the GPS coordinates, took photos of the animal in the dirt or wherever it was, took photos of you picking it up, took photos of you putting it in a bag next to a newspaper that's local with the date of that day, plus a timestamp on your photo. I mean, you can't be that concrete. It's just not physically legal or possible, right? So take it for what you will. Again, at the end of the day, we're just keeping snakes. Is there any species within colubrids where lineage is that important? I think so. I'm not as well versed. I would say my experience, let's say Crebos, for example, there's several different lines of stuff, like as far as where the founding stock came from, especially different sources for the axanthic stuff that's in there. And inbreeding is a concern with them. You don't want to inbreed because you get some inbreeding depression rather quickly with them. You'll see issues. So yeah, lineage is important, but it's more for knowing relatedness and making sure you're avoiding too much inbreeding, I believe. Now, if there's any colubrid people out there, feel free to correct me. With the Australian pythons, because we can't get more, because it's so distant, it's been around longer, it is more just for purity. Relatedness is information that you'll gather out of it, but yeah, I mean, I would just say if you're going to keep snakes and reptiles in general, get as much information on your animals as you can, just so you know where they came from, because knowing where they came from, if they're related, like if something pops up later, you can trace it back and find out where it stems from. Or if you just want to be able to replicate a certain look, that's important. So, yeah, just track it if you want. It seems to be a very Python and boa specific detail, but yeah, when you can't get new blood, you can't import in anymore, then its importance rises with the Papuans, because you can import them. Lineage is information to still demonstrate purity, because you can get crosses and that stuff, but it's also just to keep track of it moving forward. Crosses are fine, but pure is also important, so we can preserve a lot of that stuff so we don't lose it, because once it's crossed, you can't make it pure again. So I'm fearful respect is going to become an archaic word. It already is. It already is. People have no respect. I talk to folks all the time, and it baffles me how grateful they are for just the time of day and just talking to them, because what's normal is not respect and politeness. You get a lot of people that like upset that you reached out to them, like you offended them for wasting their time asking their questions. It's like it's below them, which is just absolutely audacious. Like, we all start somewhere. We all got to learn somehow. And if we're not taking the time to answer these questions for other folks coming into our niche of the hobby or the hobby as a whole, they're not getting a good foundation, and they're going to perpetuate that misinformation or that type of behavior. So just be respectful to people. Like, if you hear that there's drama, you can absorb it and you can remember it, but don't take it as fact. Just because you read it on the internet doesn't mean it's true. Just because you heard Joe Schmo say something doesn't make it fact. Like, seriously, if you want to know and you want to be sure about it, do the work yourself. Go dig it up yourself. Go track that information yourself. Put it all together. Put together a chart. Get yourself a computer, put it on PowerPoint, save those photos, draw some lines, connect and all that stuff, put little captions on everything. Pretty soon you'll have a very comprehensive photo of the background of an animal. So Brian Cox says, in milk snakes, it can cause issues. For example, Nelson's is where the albino gene originated, so there are crosses with Sinaloan and Pueblan milks. Yeah, so anytime there's multiple subspecies or morphs or anything that would give any reason to cross something, that's where lineage can be important. It's all just, being informed. Being informed is important. Knowing where your animals came from is important. Being able to give that information to a buyer is important. For example, these striped jungles, I regard them as pure jungles. You will never see me using the word pure, because it just ruffles too many feathers and people are just up in arms about it, and they just get all upset. And then all of a sudden I'm some bad guy because I used a word that they're like, oh, prove it. And they pull out their measuring stick, right? So also, because I'm still putting together that information, I don't want to, assume or project, assumptions. But that being said, I'm doing the legwork now, which I should have done years ago. So remember that if you're buying an animal and purity is important to you or lineage is important to you, get the information at the time of purchase or shortly thereafter. Don't wait for it to disappear or photos get lost. Phones crash, people lose photos. If you're getting old stuff, it's all written down. People lose those things. So pay attention to that stuff. Damn. I can't wait to make pure albino zebras next season. Poke the bear much, Dan? Yeah, so feel good getting that out of me. People just need to be more respectful. If there's a question mark about an animal's lineage, find someone who's done the legwork and research, get the information from them. Or if somebody hasn't done the legwork and research, don't just assume the gossip is true. Don't take whatever backdoor conversation you heard at a bar or at some party, just shut up. You know what you really should do? You should go to Carpet Fest. You should meet those people, because half of the people that show up to Carpet Fest, especially the OG Northeast, half of those folks were there when all this stuff was first going down. Some of those guys are even more nerdy and enthusiastic about it than I am, and have spent hours and hours and hours compiling information. Eric Burke has binders of old websites that he's printed and photocopied so he can retain this information so it doesn't get lost. He's literally documenting every piece of information he can, and it's that important. Just be respectful. Don't give in to the gossip. If somebody's running their mouth and talking smack about somebody and saying their, quality of this and that, and they're discrediting it, don't join in. Don't get involved. If it ends up being true, whatever. Be glad you weren't involved. If it ends up being false and all just hearsay and somebody's just running their mouth, well, guess what? Be glad you weren't involved, because you're not amongst that, like, the nonsense, mudslinging. It's just common courtesy isn't common anymore. Respect your elders doesn't mean respect people who are older than you. It means show respect to the people who are doing this before you. I've only been keeping carpet pythons since 2013 or so. I've only been breeding them for a few years. And even if I continue to breed them successfully for like 20 years, I'll never consider myself an expert, because there are people who came before me. There are people who do it better than me. There are people who do it differently. There are people who are more detail oriented, all of these things, right? You'll never be an expert because there's always more to learn, right? What you can do is set yourself up for success by learning, one, how to talk to people, two, how to gather the relevant information, how to maintain records, and just how to be a good person. If somebody comes to me and they say, hey, what's the lineage of your striped jungles? I'll tell them, hey, this is what I have. Here's the information. Here's photographs. I am in the process of putting together the complete list and getting some information that I have lacking at this time. What I can tell you is that it appears to be X, Y, and Z. I believe it to be this. Take that for what you want. And don't just try and sell a lie or sell anything that isn't confirmed. Just be honest. Be completely honest. And that's why I don't use the word pure, because I don't have all of the information. I also can't tell you that it's a cross, because I don't have anything that makes me think that anything is a cross unless I advertise it as such. So you'll see things being labeled as mixed blood, cross, things like that. And that's a good way. But if that information isn't there, you shouldn't just assume. So that being said, done ranting. I'm off my high horse. Well, no, I'm not. That's where I live. But, just be nice. Be nice. Just because somebody isn't all over Facebook and trying to market themselves as the number one breeder of this and that they've got the best stock, that doesn't mean that their stuff is below that guy who does do that. We all evaluate, quality and things differently. Ultimately, it comes down to being nice, doing the homework yourself. If you don't know and you're not involved, you shouldn't be running your mouth about it. You shouldn't be the one. So if somebody comes to me and asks me, hey, what's the lineage on this red coastal? I'm going to say, I don't know. I would go talk to, Jason Balin or Eric Burke or some of the, other these guys that either have done the work in breeding or have collated the data or whatever and know better than me, because I'm not going to be able to give you a good answer. I'm not going to be able to explain it well. I'm not going to be able to tell you anything with any certainty or any degree of accuracy, because I personally don't know. And those three words don't hear very often. I don't know. That's like the most genuine level of honesty that you can get out of someone. If I go to purchase an animal from somebody and I say, hey, where do these come from? What's the stock? And they go, I know this much, but beyond that, I don't know. Well, I respect the hell out of that person for saying that, instead of trying to swindle me and tell me lies and try and make a sale, because they're just being honest. Represent your animals as they are. And Todd's never done anything but that. So if you're one of those people who's behind closed doors, bashing those animals, don't come at me. Just stop. Zip it. Prove your communication. Be a better person. Be respectful. Drink some coffee. Go get another hobby if it bothers you that much. Just be nice. Morelia community is the thickest of thieves. We're all family. It's time we start treating everybody like that. All right. I feel much better. Again, I hope Todd doesn't mind me, discussing this. He doesn't like being in the forefront of, any spotlight or social media stuff because of how nasty people are. So If you are deliberately crossing animals, do you think lineage matters? To me personally, I don't think it matters as much. I think it's cool to keep track of. So, for example, I'm going to try to produce Xanax super zebras. I'm not so worried about, the super zebra het xanthic behind me. I'm not so worried about what her parents were in this and that, because with the genetics and morphs, they're either there or they're not, visually expressing or not, and you can prove that out through breeding. And it's not as important. You're not trying to show what stock it came from. Well, unless it's important to you, you might want to. See you later. Who the hell is Harvey? Oh, have some tea. Yeah, tea's good too. If you're not into coffee, tea is good. I've gone on some tea kicks. I like tea. You can actually get real fancy with tea. Honey, different types, lemon, all sorts of cool recipes. Give tea a shot. Tea lives matter. What was I saying? Oh yeah. It seems that in morph crosses, lineage isn't important. Because those that are doing it or going after it are looking for the morph, not so much for the history of the animal, right? So if you're doing an albino zebra, it doesn't matter where it came from. You can see what it is. I saw a shirt that I want. It be humankind. Under that it said be both. I like that. Humankind be both. That's a good one. I like that shirt. Oh, Justin asks, how's the Mad Hog eggs? They're doing well. Today is day 36 in the incubator. I candled them the other day and I saw little baby snakes in there. They're still good veins. The incubator's been unplugged because it's just been too hot. So if somebody asked me, what'd you incubate them at? I'd be like, everything. Anywhere between 80 and 89 because it's just that damn hot. So if I tracked it, it'd be all over the place because it's too hot here. But those eggs are doing well. I've got a fan on them in the incubator. It's closed, so it's not getting as crazy of a fluctuation out here, but it's doing well. Frank Tatis asked, what's my favorite tea? I was a huge fan of Irish breakfast with a little bit of honey and milk thrown in there. I also like the gunmetal green tea with honey and some lemon in there. That's pretty good. So, yeah, Justin, it's hot here. These 90-plus degree days in the middle or end of August and some 100-degree days. No, thank you. Ready for winter. Holy crap, I've been on here running my mouth for 45 minutes and you guys are still here. Must have said something interesting for once. Fancy that. Anyway, I could go on this all day. The main points are, don't believe the gossip. Don't contribute to the gossip. Be nice. Do your own research. And if you don't know, say it. Be honest. Be nice. Be respectful. Respect those who did it before you, too. Pretty common sense. I mean, it's easy. Simple stuff. I'm not an expert in anything. I'm actually pretty bad at most things, so it is what it is. You guys want to see one of my holdback females before I get off here? All these animals are having their second sheds. Go to work and steal. Ryan Cox, you're dangerous, man. Nobody listen to Ryan Cox. But don't do it because I told you to. Do it because he's crazy. What's up, Robert Cormany? Yeah, Spicy Riley. On a freaking roll today, y'all. Water. Look at this girl. She is going to be a tipping monster. Don't pee on my computer, please. That's all I ask. She's got excellent striping. She has some ocelots to her. She's going to be a tipping monster. But you see how there's a lot of lateral broken striping, like around her neck, basically on the flanks, on the side. It's kind of linear. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, I want the full stripe. Yes, I want good color. But this is just step one. I want, this to be a 10, 20-year project. And what I'm looking forward to, some of the features that these animals have just peeking through that I'm hoping to selectively breed for. I've already got striping. Now I want to improve that striping, retain the color, and then add to it and go further. I've got a long game approach here. So this is one of the girls that I'm keeping. Whoa. Just don't pee on my computer or in my coffee. Ah! What are you? Stop it! Get back here. Ugh. I got peed on. Ooh, she just missed my coffee. That's a dirty shirt anyway. Whatever. Yeah. Ah! I guess that's what I get for running for 45 minutes on here, running my mouth. Get peed on. Delicious. All right. Whew. Frank taught us, you know what's up. So I'm going to get off here. I got to get cleaned up and get ready for work. I'll be at the shop, GX3 today, taking care of all sorts of critters. Come by, say hi, buy some stuff. If you want to see some crazy people, you probably will. Freeport's finest. They're out there. Yeah, that's live TV for you folks. I got peed on. Happens every day. It's usually turtles, though, at work. So with that, I'm going to get off here. I've been on here for way too long. I need to shower and get cleaned up and eat some lunch. And Ryan Cox, I will get you a ring python for $900. Love, peace, and chicken grease. Respect everybody. Don't give in to rumors. Get off Facebook. Call people. Go talk to them face to face. Buy them lunch. Go have a good conversation. Don't give in to the nonsense. Be nice. Just be nice to people, please. Life is too short. Life is full of wonderful, awesome things, and it only gets better the more people you involve in your world, bring in, and have a good time with. So, that being said, I'm out of here.